Transferable skills.
From Cackle Media, this is Transferable Skills. I'm Noah Mishkin. Today's guests are Tiffany Pearson-Kilgore and Ashley Rutland. This is the first time we've ever had two guests on at once. They're going to share their skills journey, respectively, from education into founding a financial education nonprofit organization. Disclaimer, I am not a financial expert or advisor. Cackle Media nor myself take any responsibility for anything said on this episode, and all information stated here should not be taken as expert advice. Contact a professional for any advice, suggestions, or investment ideas. I hope you enjoy. This is the first time we're having two guests on at once. Welcome to the show, Tiffany Pearson-Kilgore and Ashley Rutland.
Hi, Noah.
Great to have you both here.
Thank you. Super excited. Thanks for having us.
Let's get going. Let's get rolling here.
Let's do it.
All right. You both live in different areas. You're not in the same place. You're cousins.
Yes, that's correct.
And you both share a somewhat similar background, albeit slightly different. So let's talk about that. Tiffany, you want to tell us a little bit about your background first and what you were doing?
Sure. Yes. So I am from Georgia. I used to be an elementary school teacher. I taught second, third, and fourth grade. I loved it. That's what I went to school for. Was super passionate about it. And it took me to Atlanta, where I ended up crossing paths with Ashley just in my adult years.
But Ashley, you're not in Atlanta.
I am not in Atlanta. I am down in the Sunshine State in Jacksonville, Florida. But I was in Atlanta when we founded Plan 2T. I actually went to school to be a physical therapist. So my degree is in science, but I pivoted and ended up going through an accelerated certification program to teach science to high school kids. So I taught for 10 years at the high school level, from different Title I schools to charter and private school. Like Tiffany mentioned, because we're cousins, we linked up as we both were in Atlanta and started exchanging stories. And that was the beginning of what the work we do now.
This is actually fun to talk about also because your background, you both went into education, but there's a big difference between high school and elementary. Tiffany, which grades were you teaching within elementary?
I taught second, third, and fourth.
Okay. And so Ashley, you're teaching very specific subject, whereas Tiffany,
Yep,
you got to know a bunch of different things because you're teaching several different subjects.
We teach everything in elementary outside of the specials like art and PE, music. Those have actual specialist teachers. But yes, as an elementary teacher, you have to teach everything if that's the way that your school is structured. But what's really cool is just throughout the years with Ashley and I both being teachers, we were just exchanging stories in our classrooms about just things like our boys were doing or how crazy is this story and that story. And we landed on the topic about specifically our Black boys in our classroom and how they always want to be rappers and athletes. And so those careers are perfectly fine. They're very advantageous. However, when you look at the statistics of those careers, a lot of times those kids go into it, they're making millions and millions of dollars, but then they're blowing through that money. And so that was what Ashley and I started talking about. And we're like, man, that's really crazy that you're teaching high school. They're going into those college fields. I'm teaching elementary. They're about to be going eventually into that age group where you're teaching. And it's like, how can we do something to where we can get in front of these kids and really be teaching them about financial literacy where like they're actually getting it? And so that's how Plan 2T was even formed, was just us starting with the root of the issues that we were seeing in our classroom and really just wanting to make a difference with our babies that we loved and wanted to make. We were teaching every single day.
Yeah, this conversation is going to bounce back and forth a bunch of times.
Yeah, that's
as
okay.
As opposed to being linear. And that is okay. And because I think it's important to understand that connection. Looking at Ashley and where you're essentially handing off, albeit you're not really in the same school, you're not in the same state even at this point, but you're handing off the generation. It's these kids now matriculating into Ashley's age group and thinking about, what's beyond that and how are we setting them up for success? Tell us about your nonprofit that the two of you started.
Yeah, so we founded Plan 2T 4 years ago now, which is insane to even say because it's felt like a whirlwind. And our mission is to serve young people to improve their futures through financial wellness education. And so what that means is we create workshops, live, like interactive workshops, coaching sessions, one-on-one, small group sessions, and curriculum that are based on state standards that teachers and youth group leaders can use to take their students through financial activities that really get them thinking about, what am I spending my money on? How am I spending it? Why is it important to think about my money now? Why is it important to begin saving, investing now? And a bigger picture of just the wealth gap and how a lot of times underserved communities are at a disadvantage because we don't have the knowledge it takes to manage our money. And so really what we do is get students and young people started with small, tiny steps that begin to build habits that will lead them to living really successful and stable financial lives.
Wow. You've given that pitch a few times. That was very succinct. What is that one first step? What's the one simple basic step that you would tell somebody, regardless of their age, to how to start?
So we start our kids off, or just in general, regardless of the age, looking at your needs versus wants and really defining what does that mean for you. So now Ashley and I teach college kids primarily. Our workshop has launched us into primarily teaching like student athletes or kids that are starting their careers. And so what we have found is that a lot of times the students haven't had those conversations or even know where to start. And so defining their needs versus wants really helps, because we might be teaching a kid in Boston where they don't have a car. And so Uber and Lyft might be really important to them for transportation. But when you're talking to somebody in the South that might go to Clark Atlanta University, they live in the city. They might have a car to transfer to and from. And so gas might be a priority for them. And so just really helping each person understand that no one person's situation is the same, and you have to define for yourself what needs versus wants are, is what we really teach everyone to launch them into creating a budget.
I like that you are very intentional and recognize that it's actually very similar to education. I understand that a big philosophy within education is teaching the kids based on their individual needs.
Yeah,
and here you're doing the same thing. You're talking about that the economics surrounding wants and needs may very well differ between context and situation in an individual. And I really like that, because somebody's wants might be my need, or my need might be somebody else's wants. And so I think that's really important. Is there a difference in financial wealth management, understanding the economics of your everyday needs and proper financial planning and management, regardless of what your intentions or actual future looks like?
Not really, no. And that's what we find, that no matter the audience that we're in front of, whether it's a high school kid, and we've done sessions for different corporations like professional development for their new hires, for Lego and for other organizations. And so we've had the privilege of being in front of a lot of different audiences. And like, even when we're teaching the students at the collegiate level, the coaches may be in the room and they're literally asking us questions and learning at the same time as well. And so like finances, it boils down to some very simple habits, and consistency is really what it boils down to. Is like Tiffany mentioned, understanding your needs versus want, prioritizing your needs over your wants, delaying gratification for some time to get the things that you want. And I think once you have that baseline down, then you have that play money. Okay, now I'm the athlete that has the millions of dollars and I've already taken care of all my needs. I've already saved. I've already invested. Now I have a lot more to spend than that kid that has the part-time job at Winn-Dixie or whatever it might be. But the principles are the same, to be honest.
Yeah. Two things come to mind. The first is that first paycheck as you're an adult. You have your first real job. And I don't mean nothing wrong with delivering newspapers and selling lemonade. In fact, I think that's a great start to work ethic. And suddenly you've got a couple extra zeros that you haven't seen before.
Yep.
It's critical to realize, now what? And what do you do with that? Where do you think the biggest downfall is, especially with those who have made it at a celebrity status, whether you're an athlete or musician, actor? Where do you think the major flaws happen?
I think just purchasing things that they don't necessarily need. Like a lot of times when you have a lot of money coming your way, you're literally trying to fulfill your childhood dreams and all the things that you didn't get, and not managing that, or not making yourself aware of all of the things that come with that, like the taxes, buying a humongous house, right? Or like cars and the maintenance. There's things that come with those hidden fees, I guess.
Yeah.
That people don't account for with the lifestyle. And what Ashley was saying earlier, like really helping people see those habits And really knowing like just because you have money doesn't necessarily mean you have to burn through it, and surrounding yourself with people that can help you, right? Not every financial advisor is there to be your financial advisor, but just really being wise about your circle of friends or even their habits, right? Like we hear birds of a feather. If I see somebody blowing money or I'm trying to be like that, I might not necessarily make the best financial decisions. And so we try to tell the kids that too. Try not to look at what's going on to the right or to the left because they're not in the same situation as you. And so it's focusing on those long-term goals. And it's tough, right? We're trying to teach those baby habits because the younger they grow it, then when they get older and they do make those millions of dollars, or if they have a job where they're just working a 9 to 5, either way, the basic skills are the same.
Yeah, you mentioned something that a lot of people don't think about, which is I can afford this today.
Yeah.
But what is the maintenance cost, the ongoing cost? Like if you can buy 2 or 3 cars, that's fine. But by the way, each car needs an annual registration. It's oftentimes a city sticker. It needs the insurance on each one, gas, oil changes, typically speaking, and a lot of other things. And so there's a lot of ongoing costs, and that cost scales up based on the purchase. So it's not just the cars. You think about houses and the annual costs, and those are even greater. And some of those are investments, but many times initial purchases without the long-term considerations of what that cost is going to continue adding up and what it's going to require to maintain it. It's really tough. Let's talk for a second about expectations and the imposed responsibility that individuals who have made it successfully, financially speaking, feel to take care of their network, whether it's friends or family.
Yeah.
That's a big
We have that conversation. I know. We're like,
Yeah.
we have that conversation a lot.
We've seen it not just with, I mean, we've had friends who have been in the NFL or in not just those situations, but and now that at the collegiate level, students can be paid on their name, image, and likeness now that the NIL laws have been passed. We're seeing it at that level as well. And unfortunately, it happens all the time where it's great that you grew up in a family and your mother took care of you. Maybe it was a single parent home and you feel like, I owe my mom and like, I want to buy her a house too. And I want to buy her a car too. And like you were just saying, no, all those things come with maintenance fees. And you may see your first $1 million check and feel like, this is a lot of money. And it is a lot of money, but that money goes fast. And so it's something that they wrestle with a lot. It's particularly in the Black community. It's like the rites of passage. A lot of times for a parent to feel like, okay, my child has made it now. I can woosah. And so it's a little bit of pressure on the students and on the kids, or even the NFL players or NBA, whatever sport it may be, that they feel like they feel obligated, but also they want to because they've seen the struggle of their family. And they think, oh, now I got it. I got you. And it's a noble thing. And we respect that's a desire of the student or the athlete. A lot of times it's mom is asking for this, cousin is asking for this, grandpa or whoever is asking for this or that. And they feel bad not giving it. And instead of like setting limits and boundaries, like we're not telling them, no, don't do it at all. But what is the boundary that you can set so you're not putting yourself in the hole, honestly? But it's a big dilemma for
it's a lot of pressure. As if their job is not stressful enough with a lot of pressure. And then the celebrity public status of that. And now it's coming from the people that they care about the most. And unintentionally, typically speaking. It's not that they're trying to milk or drain their finances. It's that everybody has needs. And I get that. And like you said, it's not zero sum. That it's either I'm going to give you everything you want or nothing at all. How do we set the expectations for what I can do to help set you up? And also ways that I can give, but also allow you to give back.
Exactly.
So I don't know if this is a fair study, but watching the show Entourage or more recently Ballers, I love those shows. They're fun. It's from voyeuristic to look in on that lifestyle and that world. The true entourage that an individual keeps and all this overhead that they have to support.
Yeah.
You can do that and also be responsible about it, where the people that are part of your entourage, so to speak, are also, they're working. They're doing something that's also benefiting you and helping the collective group.
Yeah. No, I think Ballers definitely depicts that lifestyle that the athletes live. We have a friend that actually plays on that show. Shout out to Christy Lawton. Yeah, one of our friends. He's an actor. But yeah, that show definitely, it depicts perfectly what those athletes go through with the pressure not only on and off the field, even like the lifestyle.
You spoke earlier about wants versus needs, and something that has come up for me personally as a parent, explaining to my kids the difference between entitlement and privilege.
Yeah.
So how do you wrap this concept of entitlement, privilege, wants, and needs into some of your education teaching? How do you define the difference between wants and needs, entitlement versus privilege?
Yeah, we have them go through realistic, pull up your Cash App, pull up your bank account. Let's look over the last month and think through, all right, I spent money at, I don't know, Chick-fil-A 10 times. I bought shoes at Nike however many times. I went to the grocery store this many times. And then, so as we talk about for each individual, and like Tiffany mentioned, someone, maybe Uber is really need and maybe the car is for the other student, we really have them to break down realistically for themselves what those lists of needs are. And we try to say that you're entitled to those things, right? You need to cover those needs. And then everything else is more so a privilege for you. So we try to give them the limit. Yeah, you need to have shoes on your feet, but you may not need to have $250 plus Jordans on your feet. That's more of that privilege than going to the store and just grabbing a quick pair from Macy's or whatever it may be.
Is it okay once in a while for them to indulge?
Yeah,
Sure.
absolutely. And
so
that's
how do you
what
define that line?
So again, going back to that budget, right? It's not necessarily saying that you can't get that, but maybe you're putting like $10 away until you get to that financial goal, right? And then you can buy it. You're not necessarily putting $250 on your credit card, right? Where you're gaining interest and you're having to pay extra money back. You're putting it aside. It might not feel so good that you aren't able to instantly get it. But the fact that you work towards it or you're putting money away, like, again, we try to focus on those habits, building those habits. So delayed gratification does not always feel good when you're starting it at all, even as an adult. So, but
it certainly feels more rewarding once you have gotten to the place where you can now make that purchase.
Absolutely.
Exactly.
But, we're starting with college kids, high school kids, right? They don't understand that. It's mom and dad, just give me the money for it. Let me go ahead and have it. Just really even having them think about, how do you think your parents feel? Those are conversations that we try to build into it as well. Because a lot of times when we talk to the kids, especially high school and college, just the demographics that they're from, the relationship that they have between the generation before them and money is typically negative. It's talking about paying bills or not having enough money to pay bills. And so we're trying to get the kids to see also, okay, we all know somebody that has to borrow money or call grandma to be able to get a little bit of extra. What do you do to prevent that from being you? Yeah. You have to set financial goals. Let's learn from this and try to apply it to you so that you can make better habits too.
I think everyone, regardless of age, status, financial status, and all that stuff, could benefit from, as you described before, like this financial audit. Ashley, you were describing like going in and looking at how much Chick-fil-A this month, or like I say this to my kids all the time. Like, I notice you've been to 7-Eleven almost every day this week getting a Slurpee. And yeah, it's $2, but that's $2 times the number of times this week you've gone. And what does that actually look like? What percentage of your annual income or your weekly income in their case are those Slurpees adding up to? Those behavior patterns, choices, they only get more expensive. I remember when I was probably around middle school, I remember everything cost $100. Everything you wanted was like $100. It was like everything amazing was $100. And then once you get into college, everything is $1,000.
Yep.
Everything's in increments of 1,000. And then once you become an adult, everything is in increments of $10,000.
Yep.
So everything just costs a lot more. And so building those habits early on and that discipline is so vital. And I like that you recognize this need for financial literacy and helping people start to think about this at an early age. Let's talk about your skills as teachers. If you don't mind, let's start with you, Tiffany. As an elementary school teacher, tell me some of the skills that you felt were vital in allowing you to be successful in that role.
Yes. So as an elementary teacher, you are locked in a classroom with 25 plus littles every single day, right?
It's a great way to describe it, locked in the classroom.
Locked in a classroom. And so really the best way to survive is classroom management. You are literally managing 25 plus little personalities, and you have to bring them together sometimes and then separate them. And I think that has been probably one of the best skills that has been transferred over, because we've gone from now just teaching 25 kids in a year to walking into an auditorium and there being 100 plus kids. And so it's whoa to see that many kids in the room, but to also be able to engage their attention, to be able to quiet them down without having to scream and yell. With classroom management, like if you lose your kids, you can waste so much time in the classroom, right? So being able to just round up the kids and be like, okay, guys, like we can't move forward with our next special guest if you guys don't be quiet. Like we've even gotten like some of the administrators or partners that we might bring in for our program and be like, we would have never been able to have done that. And we're like, it just comes natural, not only to me, but to Ashley too. So it is so great. Just the way that she and I have been able to come together just to run our nonprofit in general, just from what we learned in the classroom, has been so vital to the life of Plan to a T.
Yeah. Are the strategies the same between 20 kids in a classroom versus 200 in an auditorium?
Pretty much, yeah. And especially too, because it's two of us, it makes it a little bit easier. It's not just one person in front of 100 plus kids. But yeah, it's a matter of setting the tone when you walk in the room, and setting the expectation, engaging in a certain way that makes them not want to be on the side and talking in their phones and talking to their friends. And so we come out the gate with the energy, with the drive that catches their attention. We might have a little conversation over here. We don't just let it slide. We're going to address it. And so when you do that, the students realize, oh, I need to pay attention.
Yeah. How do you kick off that, going from everyone's finding their seats, there's some talking going on, and then you want to get a program running? What do you say to get everyone's attention, to get things rolling, and for them to be invested with their focus and attention?
Between the two of us, we both have really high jovial energy. And so I think just our presence in the front of the room and be like, hey guys, they're like, oh, what are y'all here for? Having that energy that draws them in. Because if you come in and walk in, all right, today we're going to be talking about budgeting. They're like, okay. And
exactly.
Like, so it's the energy that we bring that really captivates them to start paying attention to begin with.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, like no room is the same. So we have to freestyle when we go in there. Like some rooms we might have a microphone and we're just able to be like, all right, guys, all attention on us. But then sometimes we literally have to go back to high school, and Ashley and I both used to be cheerleaders. So we both have just like loud, projected, high energy, and we love what we do. Ashley and I literally quit our jobs to do this full time. So this is literally our passion. When we wake up in the mornings and we're getting ready to go do a session, it's another goal that we've been dreaming about. And so like when we go in there, like you can tell this is our jam, you know?
Yeah, it's probably contagious. The enthusiasm is palpable. It's felt, and then it gets them excited. I've been to plenty of lectures where you can see that the person's just going through the motions. They're repeating the same thing that they've gone through, regurgitating the same stuff. And it's probably interesting, but the delivery is at least as important as the content. So having that energy that you're describing, former cheerleaders, that's another awesome skill transfer.
There you go.
It's imperative. It's so important to be able to command the room. I know plenty of great educators, meaning they really know the subject. They've been doing it a long time. They just have poor classroom management skills. And as a result, they struggle.
Yep. It's very hard.
Really hard. The person who has the more energy is going to be better at captivating the audience for them to even pay attention to the one or two things that they do know versus the 10 that someone else may know. Really is about your presentation style.
It's funny. I'm married to an educator. So, and this is a question I've never actually asked her this before. We have talked about classroom management and a lot of those presentations, lectures, speaking skills and that stuff. And that is obvious. You get that on the job with a lot of experience. I'm curious, though, how much attention is spent and time on classroom management, presentation, energy, effective communication.
So I went to school for education. Like I majored in it. And you have student teaching experiences. But what I will say is that no experience is the same. I did like my student teaching in Kennesaw, and that was in, they have schools called Title I and non-Title I. So it's like schools that are high, reduced free lunch versus schools that don't have a free lunch, like their parents can afford to pay. And so I've done student teaching at different schools, and even in the same school, like the one classroom might be completely different from the classroom that's next door. And so classroom management is something that you grow and learn over time. Like you can see somebody being a great classroom teacher and you can pick up different skills of what they're doing to implement into your classroom. But to me, at the end of the day, classroom management is really relationship building with your students. I remember being in second grade teaching, and there was a little boy in the first grade the year before who would run out of his classroom teacher. Like he was literally a runner. He would run out of the building. He would run out of his classroom teacher's room. And you would constantly hear on the radio, so-and-so's running out the room. So when I saw him on my roster the next year, I was like, oh my gosh, I have the runner. But day one, I literally looked at him and was like, you're in my class now. You're my baby. We're going to have the best year ever. And if you feel like you need to just like breathe or just have a moment, you let me know and I'll let you go take a breather in the corner. He never ran out of my classroom. Like you set the tone at the beginning of the year. And so it's some kids, you can just give them that mama look like, hey, I need for you to pay attention. Other kids, you have to be like, hey, baby, I'm going to do something really special for you at the end of the week. If give me 3 good days of giving me your best and doing your. So I feel like classroom management at the end of the day is relationship building. And that's what makes it easier. And even though me and Ashley don't know these kids a lot of times, when we're walking into these rooms for the first time, I think they can feel the love. They can feel the genuineness. They can feel like, oh, they're not just here just to blah, blah, blah through a presentation. Like they're up here and they're energetic and they're ready like to be engaged with us. And we always try to bring something fun with us. So we'll partner with the Jacksonville Jaguars and they'll deploy out their, mascot. So the kids don't know that he's back in the room and we're talking to them and they scan back and, he's back. It's just, we always try to just make it fun where it's like, you're learning about finances, but also, hey guys,
Yeah, that transferable skill is very obvious to me now. Talking about the classroom management, grabbing their attention, especially at the onset of the year, establishing that relationship and trust, and them sensing your interest in them being there, present, mind and body, same as how you describe starting off that lecture in a hall of 200, 300 people. Yeah. Them sensing your enthusiasm, your genuine interest in being there. And kids are really good at reading people. Yes. Kids can read through BS.
Yeah.
They can tell when you're faking.
Yep.
And when you're sincere and you approach that relationship with sincerity, that's the beginning of a great relationship and year.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah.
I honestly, just saying this, I truly believe that I understand some of the dynamics of education better right now than I maybe ever have before. And I'm seeing a lot of the transferable skills myself personally here. And that's a huge, this is a good moment for me. Like and you're bringing that to me and I appreciate that. Thank you.
I think the other 2 things that I wanted to add just to our transferable skills is assertiveness and resourcefulness. Ashley and I have gotten a lot of no's. Just with us evolving over the years, the way that we fundraised or strategized or even taught or delivered our workshops, it's evolved over the years. And so when you're running a business or a nonprofit, you're not always going to hear the fuzzy yes and the feel good answer that you want to, but pushing through and being like, okay, that person told me no, but there might be somebody else that, is willing to help. That has really helped us. And then like with being a teacher, you have to be resourceful. When you want to deliver the best, the most fun, the most engaging lesson, not all the times that the resources that the school has readily available to you. Like it might be a book that literally has dust on it. And you're like, okay, let me crack this open to teach, anatomy or whatever. Like, just being able to zoom in a scientist or go on a field trip to go to the body museum so that they can really connect with what you're learning inside the classroom. That's something that we did inside of our classrooms individually, that when we were sharing stories, we were like, oh, you did that too? That's so cool. Like at the high school level. But now that we're running our nonprofit full time, we have totally transferred that over. And we're like, okay, yeah, we can go in and just teach financial literacy on a PowerPoint presentation. But like, how can we really make it where kids are taking things away, where they're really applying, talking to their parents as well, like having cross-generational conversations so that the actual difference that we're seeking to make is actually happening.
And people don't understand too, like the amount of preparation it goes into creating a lesson that's going to engage students of all different levels. It's that skill of really thinking through in advance. I want to teach this skill, but I know that I have kids that are a little higher advanced, a little in the middle, and then some that are a little lower. How can I reach all of those kids? All of that goes into presenting on a daily basis. And that work is something that is 100% transferable in a lot of facets of different industries or whatever the career may be that you're thinking about going into, of just like being able to connect with people no matter what their skill is or what their level is in a room full of a bunch of different people with different backgrounds. How do you really connect with all of them? It's a learned skill and it takes time, but it's something that's necessary to really connect with the audience.
Resilience. Definitely. And learning to hear no is an absolute necessity in many jobs, especially as a founder of anything. You're going to hear a lot of no's, but you're also just going to go through a lot of obstacles with paperwork and legalese and things like that. Is that process like for you guys?
We've had some really great mentors. I'll say that. And like, if you're planning to start any sort of business, nonprofit or not, mentors is key. But I think in general, we have to shout out Trey Roth. He's been a mentor from the start. He definitely started us with just understanding what we needed to run a business in general, how we needed to communicate with people. And then we also connected with a few other people as we started the nonprofit journey, and understanding that it takes a lot of paperwork to get started and it takes a lot of organization. And because they're a nonprofit organization, a lot of times the government's looking for like, how well do you align with all these different check marks you have to hit before they will even approve you for a 501c3. The biggest thing that we leveraged was talking to people who had done it before and just using their advice to go through that process. We had another one of our really good contacts at Microsoft, Darrell Booker, is actually the reason that we're a nonprofit. We started thinking we wanted to be a for-profit organization. And he was like, what you guys are doing is really philanthropic in nature. And I could see this being a really successful nonprofit organization. And so he helped us to think about really transferring into a nonprofit and pointing us in the right direction and how to operate.
I think one of the biggest things when we first started that Trey Roth taught us is you have to be flexible to your audience. You might have a really great idea that you want to execute, but if there's no customer base out there, then you're just creating something for naught. And so we were really laser focused on creating this idea when we first got started and changing our mission a few different times to finally get it to what it is today.
Whether it's a nonprofit or a for-profit, the principle is still the same in finding product market fit.
Yep. Be confident in the purpose, but be flexible in the delivery.
That's a great quote.
Thank you.
Wait, say that again.
Be confident in the purpose, but be flexible in the delivery.
Wow, that's awesome.
Thanks.
I want to know where you got your financial literacy from. Where did you learn for yourselves personally, and then growing on top of that in order to teach others about financial literacy and financial management?
Yeah, my dad is actually a CPA. And so I think my first financial literacy came from him drilling into my head. Part of it is the life lessons that you learn along the way since then, and realizing, like, I can't do the things I wanted to do with this amount of debt. Like, I got to figure out how I'm going to pay that down. And so doing my own research to figure that out. And then, of course, as we started Plan to a T and knew that this wanted to be our focus, leaning on experts in the field to teach us the things we didn't know and doing our own research and continually to doing that as we add new courses has been the main thing.
Yeah. So for me, my mom was a really big inspiration to just the way that I think financially. I grew up of stories of her telling me like how she bought her first car cash because she saved up for it and moved back home to live with my grandparents after she graduated college and things of that nature. She had always been a visionary of, this is my goal. This is what I want to do next. And so I always have patterned myself from that. I've always been like, I wanted to pledge a sorority when I was in college, and it cost $2,500 to do that. And my mom was like, I'm not giving you money for it's not a need. I'll help you with whatever if you need groceries or things of that nature, I'll help you with that. But I'm not going to give you money to pledge. And so I was like, okay, I'll just go get a job then. My mom has always really taught me like needs versus wants. So I've had to really learn, okay, well, how am I going to get the things that I want if she's not going to help me pay for them? Like if she's not going to buy it for me. And I've asked my dad and he says no, like, how am I still going to be able to accomplish that goal? I hate debt just in general. So I've always tried to have that delayed gratification, or, okay, I don't necessarily need it now. Or if I think about it 3 days later and I still don't have it, do I really need to go out and buy it? So I've tried to be really cautious with the way that I've spent just from like college until now. And then I think, like Ashley said, just being surrounded by people and being willing to learn from people who are in finances or who really have success stories with investing and learning from that and being able to apply that into what we're teaching so that kids can learn from our mistakes in general. I haven't done everything perfect. I've taken out loans and had to pay them back, getting my master's and things of that nature, but not deferring your loans or not waiting 10 years to start paying it off are things that we're trying to teach the kids now so that they don't, accrue crazy interest or things of that nature.
Compounding interest can work in both ways. It could serve to help you save for the future. It could also be crippling if it's debt. But I would also say that both of you, Tiffany and Ashley, your own personal experiences, whether it's secondhand by way of seeing what you've learned from your mother, or personally speaking, you've had credit card debt, you've made purchases before that you perhaps regret. I would argue that actually gives you authority and relatability to be able to teach this subject matter. You understand it empathetically. You recognize how it could affect you, but you also recognize how you can benefit from what you have learned in the past and make those changes. Same as looking at curricula and making adjustments year after year, looking at what you have done from a programming standpoint and making improvements and adjustments. It's the same thing. Our spending habits, looking at what we've done, financial audit, and now making improvements for the future. It actually makes you better at your job, is my assumption.
We have just found that when we exchange personal stories, just learning from what we did in the past, what doesn't work, there's things that we both wish we could have done or should have done or whatever. And it's just our goal again for the kids behind us to hey, y'all, there are going to be people on campus that are predatory lenders and they're going to try to get you to sign up for this or do that or whatever. Try not to fall for it. Or when you get your refund check back from your student loan, instead of taking that extra money and going shopping with it, give it back to the loan company. That's money that you have to pay back. Those are things that I didn't know when I was in school.
Totally. And I remember all of the times on campus that you have vendors present.
Yeah.
For instance, credit cards. I'll give you a free t-shirt if you open a credit card.
Yep.
And in some cases that's fine, but in many cases it's not, because it actually is negatively affecting your credit, or there's, annual fees that you didn't read about or commitments that you didn't realize.
Yeah.
And you got a free t-shirt out of it, but it's not worth what typically the trade-off is for. So maybe don't get that free t-shirt.
Correct.
Exactly.
You're also going to be paying 35% extra.
Oh my
I
gosh.
just literally finished paying off a credit card that I ran up in college.
Congratulations. Good for you.
Very proud of her. Again, just reiterating those tiny habits that we're trying to instill in these students. I didn't understand that swiping a credit card and maxing out was going to affect my credit score. I didn't understand that when it says minimum payment, that's not all you need to pay. You should be paying it off in full every month. Just how to responsibly use a credit card in general is something that I had to learn. And I paid the price and I had to be disciplined to pay it off, obviously. But those skills are, again, those habits that we're really focused on getting these kids to understand right now.
Did the lender throw a party or celebrate in any way when you finished paying off your debt?
And I expected them to. I'm like, come on now. All that no.
I felt the same way. I remember I made a phone call to pay off my student debt. It was the last tranche.
Yeah.
And I was expecting some sort of congratulatory message. Nothing. The person could not have been less interested in talking to me. It was very, very dissatisfying.
Oh, man. Yeah.
It's a little disappointing, but seeing that credit score where it is, I'm very happy now.
You should be. That's a huge milestone. It's a testament of your commitment to getting financially back on track and fulfilling your responsibilities.
Absolutely.
What we've been trying to get our students to understand is like that's attached to larger goals. If you want to buy a car, if you want to buy a house, you have to be able to show that you are able to responsibly borrow and then pay money back. It's also helping our kids think about what are their future goals. Like, yeah, swiping your credit card now to get the new Jordans feels good. But later on, 4 years from now, if you don't have those $250 Jordans paid off and you have $1,000 racked up, were the shoes really worth it? Hey, you could have invested that $250 into Nike stock. Did you think about that? So, just those
That's a rabbit hole to get down.
Oh, there we go. And it's just probing questions that we try to ask the kids.
A lesson that I learned actually very recently was the importance of still having debt. There's good debt because I had a friend who was telling me he couldn't qualify for a car lease because he owned everything outright. And I don't mean like millions and millions of dollars. His Honda Accord, he owned outright. He didn't have a mortgage and he had no credit card debt, and it's a different kind of debt. But the point is that he had no debt, and therefore he didn't have any real credit history, and he couldn't qualify for a lease that he certainly could afford. And so there is a position to understanding from financial literacy the difference between bad and good debt. Debt actually helps you, and you need it.
Yep. It opens those doors for things that you want. Yep. Yeah. I learned that from my mom. Like she was saying, like when she bought her first car, she had the cash for it, but they basically made her take out a loan so that she could build her credit. Yeah. And so she was like, yeah, I paid it. I gave them like 2 payments and then I paid the rest of it off, building that good credit too.
And if you're not in a position to pay it off that quickly, my personal advice to anyone who can afford to do this is if you have cash flow, to just set your payments on automatic. I remember I got a credit card a couple years ago, and it was the first payment. I missed it. It was like literally, I'm not kidding, $3 on it. And I missed the payment. And as a result, they lowered my limit because I missed that one $3 payment. And so it could actually affect you negatively. They are ruthless. And so first of all, the tip that I have is if you have some cash flow is to put all of your monthly bills on auto pay. If that works for you financially, it just means that you're not going to leave it up to human error, where you're going to miss the deadline for any reason. The other thing is, we talk about the ruthless. I'm not in government, I'm not in politics and legislation, and I'm not financially in any ways an expert. So I don't know if what I'm saying is applicable or true or not, but there should be federal limitations or at least oversight on lenders where they can't charge you above a certain percentage of interest, because they are taking somebody who typically your first set of credit cards, 18, 21, you don't have that background and experience in life skills yet. And they're now charging that 30% interest, and they're putting you already behind. And it's so hard to bail yourself out. You know this. It takes years sometimes to bail yourself out of that. And so there needs to be something from a humanitarian, humanistic standpoint. Just business is important. Revenue and profit is important, but to what point and how is it going to actually hurt society? And so there needs to be something that it's capped, no percentage above whatever the federal interest rates are, because we need to help people more.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to come at the cost of a business thriving.
Correct.
But the business thriving shouldn't come at the cost of a large percentage of the population being in critical debt that is insurmountable.
Yep. Especially for younger.
I think this is the second real big soapbox I've ever been on in the show. Tiffany, I'm going to ask you a question. If there's a job that you think you would be really good at, you would excel at this job, but you're also exceedingly overqualified for, like a guilty pleasure, something that would bring you joy, are there any that come to mind?
Yes. I used to work at Starbucks as a barista. If I could make just a salary enough where like it would make my ends meet and all the bills are paid and I could still do a little bit of traveling here, like I would still be a Starbucks barista. That literally was my favorite job. It was so fast paced. And like you're constantly having to just engage with people. And like you got to talk on the headset. And it was just really fun to work. And I think it also was just a time too where like I was heavily goal setting. I was going through a lot when I was like working at Starbucks too. So just like even like the perseverance and the consistency from it. Shout out to Starbucks, man. Like
Totally.
I loved working at Starbucks as a barista.
Yeah.
And now I'll just kick it off over to Ashley. Do you want to answer also?
It's funny. Yeah. It's funny because mine actually aligns with what Tiffany's was. We actually were working these part-time jobs while we were teaching at the same time. I was a host at Houston's, and I absolutely loved working at Houston's. It's like a mid-upscale-ish restaurant in Atlanta. I'm not sure if you're familiar with it or not, but just like it was always fast-paced. We were on a wait every lunch and every dinner, and we'd see all kinds of people coming in there, from actors to athletes to whatever it may be. And when you have people who are your regulars, they begin to know you, and so you have these relationships with people that they're coming in, and you just get to meet their families. And it's so much more than just seating them and getting them a drink or just actually catching up on life. So it's really cool to build those relationships with people in just a kind of simple way and enjoy while they're enjoying a meal. I loved working at Houston so much.
You were both in education. You both co-founded a nonprofit, and you both sort of answer this similarly in food services as your guilty pleasure job. I love it.
I told you, Ash is the yin to my yang. Like sometimes it's like things that like we're literally exactly alike, and then like other times it'll be some topic and we're completely opposites on. But like it works.
It's never in between. It's either
opposites but complementary.
Exactly. And I think that it's honestly just been a beautiful business marriage to what we have and what we bring to the table, just our backgrounds. Ashley used to run a business with her siblings. And so like she's really strong in some areas when it comes to business. And then there's other areas where I bring a little bit more strength, but somehow Plan to a T is still here in 2025. And we still are just as passionate about it as we were when we founded it in 2021. So it's been a really great journey. I'm really excited to see where we progress from here.
That's awesome. Fantastic way to end this. It's been a great, insightful, meaningful conversation with both of you, Ashley and Tiffany. I just want to say thank you for taking this time to be here to share your experience. Plan to a T will be also linked in the show notes. Please check them out. They're doing great work, and we want our audience to support you guys. So thank you again.
Thank you.
Pleasure.
I want to thank Ari Stein for recommending Tiffany and Ashley as today's guests, and to you, our listeners, for joining us on this episode of Transferable Skills. Remember, the skills you've gained can take you anywhere. Until next time, keep exploring those transferable skills.